Abba Yahweh, we do bless your magnificent name. We need by the power of the Ruah, in the magnificent name of Jesus, for your truth, to help open our understanding so we can comprehend what you're saying, the scriptures are saying, so we can bring about a performance that you'll be pleased with. In Jesus' magnificent name, amen. All right, you may be seated. It's obvious that we're talking about spiritual warfare. And the ideal of speaking and talking about spiritual warfare is so that you can gain knowledge of things that are going on in life that you wouldn't normally suspect, because there's nothing in this society that actually brings our attention or discernment or into focus the spiritual realm like the Word does. But even at that, the Word, it gives us a pretty good comprehension of what's taking place, but it has to be preached. And it's by the power of the Ruah. That's the reason why you often hear over and over and over again, not by power nor by might, but by His Spirit. And so everybody doesn't hear. Everybody just simply do not hear like you think you do. And you can tell to the level that people hear anything based on performance. Does that make any sense? If people have little performance, and I'm going to tell you what I've learned over the years about humanity. I've learned the people who you tell stuff or you teach them things, and there's very little performance, is because they have very little care for themselves. And when they have little care for themselves, that same attitude or that same spirit branches out to others. Am I making any sense? And so everybody is, like I said before, is not, we may all be sitting here, but we're really truly not all engaged. And that's just a fact. You know, I'm not under any illusion whatsoever at all. We have other things that is in front of us. I was speaking to Sister Carol before I came up, and I said, you know, if you stop for a moment and you really truly begin to think, there's such a fine line between this temporary life and eternity. And of course, the Bible makes it known to us, but while we're here on this earth, eternity seems so far away, and yet it's only one breath. That's it. That's why I make statements. When you live life, you need to try to live every day as if it is your last day. And the reason why you need to live every day as if your last day, because if you're going to go out, you want to go out righteous. Y'all hear me? I was looking there on the internet earlier, and there was a secular pastor out there, you know, that people call Christian pastor. All right? And he decided that he was going to stand up and confess some sins before the congregation. And after he confessed, he died. Right on the spot. Y'all hear that? Now, he's going to be judged based on his role as a man, a husband, father. No doubt he was somebody's son. A leader in the day of judgment. What are you going to be judged on? See, don't let life allow you to get into a lethargic state. And you get so consumed by the cares of it that you forget your time with the Most High. And you totally ignore the teachings that are coming forth from this ministry because it's there to help you. And some of you obviously don't want any help. I'm not only just talking to you here at Straitway, I'm talking to everybody else on the other side of that camera as well. And, you know, it is kind of disturbing when, you know, you preach and teach these messages. And I tell us over and over again that we have a cattle mentality. Whichever way the cows or the herd is going, that's the way we go. But it is very, very disturbing when you teach these messages and you see little performance. I told you, I've always been around, at least during my born again time, church folk, if I can use that term, assembly folk. And in every place I've ever been, there's only been maybe that many that's really serious, and everybody else usually feeds off of that little small number anointing. Everywhere I go, and this place is no different. Given the level of word that is given to us, you'll think that it would obviously be the other way around. It's the same attitude that when Christ had spent 3 years speaking to the disciples, things concerning the kingdom of Yah. And after he met them, after he rose, they went right back to the same old state. And I mean, just right on back. And of course, the one that really truly believed was Miriam. And when they got back to the disciples, they didn't believe nothing that he had said until he appeared. And that's the same state. That's why I say, we read this word, and no doubt this word is very, very spiritual. Now, you may see words written on the pages of this book or on this piece of paper right here. But once they jump off that page into your mind and you start putting into practice the things that this thing says, you're going to find out exactly how real this word really is. You can try to get as close to the Hebrew or whatever, they're still not going to help you concerning the war that we're all faced with. You can try to learn Hebrew, and whatever Hebrew you're learning is going to be Yiddish anyway. You can try to learn every language in the world, but it would not give you one bit of help concerning this war that we all find ourselves in. So the message of the deliverance is very, 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 very real. We hope, it is a hope. We hope that you get it. We hope that you get it. Because it is true that none of us know the day or the hour when our time is up. But whatever that day or that hour is, you're going to spend your rest of, if I can say, time in eternity. And everything that you've done, everything that you believed, including life, or the things you refused to do or didn't do, or it wasn't important to do. We sold so much in this temporal realm and we didn't put nothing in the eternal realm. It's not going to be any more promotions. As a tree falls, so shall it lie. And things like this, you should be meditating on. I mean, a lot of times, I said it once, I said it again. A lot of times you're driving down the road, cut the damn radio off so you can hear what's really going on in life. Stop all the distractions, and I know the reason why we cut radios on and we cut movies on and TVs and all that, and hey, that's fine in moderation, but a lot of times we stay busy on purpose so we can somehow, some way ignore the pain of the reality of what's going on in our minds. And we still don't get any better. We get worse. You see, people can't talk like this unless they're familiar with the war. People are not going to speak like this unless they are very, very familiar with the real reality of the war that we find ourselves in. So when I give you this knowledge, all this knowledge, and of course, you notice how quiet it was in the dining hall last Shabbat, right? That's because this word is a discerner of the heart. And the book is right about your heart. Your heart is evil, and it is wicked. And when this word comes, it reveals the heart. Now, the world, they think that conviction is a cuss word, so they run from it. Saints, they hear the word that discerns their heart, they run from it too, by a lack of a performance. You know, we hear it, and it's become like a sitcom. Your favorite show. And that's why you see very little fruit taking place in the hour and the time that we're living in. I wonder how much more anointed the meetings could be if all of us would increase our time with the Most High a little bit. I still understand after all these years that nothing comes before the King. Nothing. Not family, wife, children, husbands, jobs. Nothing comes before the King. And there's enough time in the day that we have this downtime. Some of you actually need to get rid of them telephones too. They too distracting, especially these phones so smart that they made you dumb as hell. That's why they call them smartphones, so you can be dumb. Oh, it's a convenience to have this, and that. But it's like I say, I'll give you an example. For instance, I don't go on vacations. You never see me leave this land and leave to go visit family for a whole week or two. Never done it. The whole time since I've been in ministry. If I go anywhere, it's for the work of the ministry. For the edifying of the body. Why? Because I already have family around me. See the difference? Some believe it, some don't. Did I say it's wrong? No, because our roles are very different. This making sense? Our roles are very different. But these words ring true. For wherever your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So try to take all this time that we have between now and Pesach to determine that you're going to improve the quality of your spirituality so you'll quit being so oppressive to yourself. And then you'll just maybe be able to taste the glory of joy and the fruit that comes with it, rather than hearing all these messages and getting beat up because you see where you continually keep falling short because you're investing little into yourselves. Does this make sense? Proverbs 4:20 says, my son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings. Let them not depart from thy eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart. For they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. So what is that telling us in a nutshell? That's telling us that the word will bring health. All right? Since the word brings health, what brings diseases? Because that is how the Bible put it, diseases and sicknesses and stuff. Well, there are many, many things, again, that we don't call sin, yet we feel the effects of it. And until we start calling things what they really truly are, we're going to continue to keep feeling the hand of Satan and his kingdom oppressing on us. As long as you continue to keep giving them a pass, if you understand what I mean. Negative emotions and negative feelings bring disease. Generational curses bring diseases and sicknesses. The Torah told us that diseases would increase. And all these curses will come upon us. Look at where we at now. In this world. Look at where we at now. Look at the plagues that took place over there during the Exodus. We have diseases greater than that now. And they're continually keep going. And the reason why disease is an epidemic or pandemic, or whatever you want to call it nowadays, they spread so much, is because iniquity, sin, and lawlessness continues to increase. It's a breeding ground. It's a bacteria. And as this earth waxes older, it gets worse. It has a time that it has to run, and then after that it's over. So Satan's kingdom, we know that he's warring against our minds. That we know, surface level. But when he starts spitting in our ear, when he starts loading us down with these negative feelings and emotions, we act like we don't have an enemy no more. Because he's been an expert at having us to internalize everything concerning this war. You know, we have a lot of self in everything, a lot of self-rejection, self-condemnation, self-hatred. We've learned how, because of the influence of sin, to curse ourselves. We say things, I wish I would die. And we expect that that's going to stop the curse, and yet we experience death in our bodies, and we forget that we said we wish we were dead. Because there ain't too many people trying to ring the sober bell. And especially us, being of somewhat of a dual nature, meaning we can choose to walk in the flesh or in the spirit. That's why the scriptures already made a choice for us. Walk in the spirit. And the reason why you walk in the spirit is so you don't fulfill the lust of the flesh. And what do we do the majority of the day? How in the world can you, and you can do it, meditate on his word? You can work and still meditate on his word. Yeah, you can. If you can't and you're busy in thought, then there are other things. When you get finished being busy in that thought or whatever you're doing, there's a lot of time between you and that bathroom. In other words, we need to really truly condition ourselves to start making the most I mean, literally, because you don't want to have any regrets when your breath go out of this body. You definitely don't want to have any regrets. People are dying every day. And many of them are dying because of things they refuse to repent for. Haven't you noticed that this world, I mean, think about this. Think about this. When you get sick, what's the first thing you normally do? You look for a solution, isn't that right? Is that right? Is that not right? And the first thing you look for is the first thing that come up in your flesh. But you never look to see what the word says. What herb do we take for this? And it just got finished saying, for they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Talking about his words. Another thing we definitely going to have to work on is learning how to take joy in persecutions and tribulations. Because if you don't, you're going to invite the enemy in. What kind of talk is that when the Apostle Saul said that I take pleasure in my infirmities? That's the breeding ground for Satan for us. That's the breeding ground for murmuring, complaining, and speaking every negative thing that comes out of your mouth. Death is really going to start working then. And we're yet commanded to be sober and vigilant, because our adversary is walking about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Even though we know that life and death is in the power of the tongue. But this is, hey, you can thank the American society for this. USA under Satan's authority for your mind. And then you can thank you for doing nothing about it, since you have been instrumental in allowing the influence of this world to be imprinted on your mind. It's obvious in this ministry that you've got some mind to you, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here. Because you listen to a preacher who thinks way outside of the norm. And the reason why I think outside of the norm, because I take a look at my brothers that have gone on before me, and I think that they had it right. And I look and see exactly what's happened to them. I think they're in good company. I think their name is written down. But for us, the jury is still out deliberating. We haven't finished our course yet. Let me talk briefly just for a moment here about our way of thinking, like I always do, because thinking has to do with the heart. Y'all notice I always minister about the heart, the mind, the heart, all the time, the appetites, the seats, the passions of it. You ever understand? Y'all know the reason why I do that? Because I know what the enemy uses. That's the battlefield. Some people use excuses so that they will not take personal responsibility for their own sanctification. We in this generation, knowing how wicked and perverse that it is, and it is very wicked and it is very perverse. We have a great calling upon us in this last end time. In case you hadn't noticed, parents, be you young or old, children, every one of them, mimic the behavior of their parents, especially mama, because mama is the first line teacher, and that's the personality that the children are going to be influenced by the greatest, because they spend more time around mama than they do daddy. So as parents, and even including those of us who are older, there are young people that are seeking mentors because they had no examples in front of them. But we pass on our way of thinking and the way that we deal in life and our behaviors to everyone is paying attention to us. If mama is extremely fearful, the children are going to be extremely fearful. If daddy is bitter and angry, the children are going to learn how to be bitter and angry. And they're going to approach life this way as well. Everything that we do in this life has spiritual ramifications. If a person has been sexually or emotionally or physically abused, he would probably abuse others himself. That's just the way generational curses work. Numbers 14:18 says that Yahweh is long-suffering and great of mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression, and by no means clearing the guilty. If there's anybody that highlights this text of Scripture more than anything, it has to be me. In other words, you're going to pay for every single thing that you do, just like there's a law of sowing and reaping. You're going to pay. The ideal is to get you to pay the good way and not the bad way. You ever notice, if you ever seen how fear shows up faithfully? That begins your payment process. That's why you're not clear. You feel heaviness and oppression. You paying for what you didn't call sin. Who in the world is going to call worry sin? Who's going to do that? Yet you're not at peace. You're not fulfilling the fruit of the Spirit. This is how deceptive Satan's kingdom is. Sure, you're going to have human beings that they're going, oh boy, humans will do things that will piss you off. You can be angry, just don't sin. In other words, if they do things that's going to piss you off, make sure you guard your heart from bitterness. Visit the iniquities of the fathers upon the children until the third and fourth generation. That's in the same passage there in Numbers 14:18. We having all this knowledge and all this understanding or this comprehension of exactly what's going on, we are actually in a good position. It's just that we don't take the position like we should. Satan is going to do everything he can to rob you of your peace. But he can only take what you give him. Especially since you're already a servant of the Most High. He's not going to stop interjecting thoughts. You ever notice when you see people leave the faith and you see them in the world, it looks like that they're doing fine? You know the reason why? Because Satan has done backed off his battalion of war from their minds. He done made them very comfortable back in the world again. And they have this illusion that they're at peace. And they've even developed an attitude in nature where they don't even read the Bible no more. Wow, it seems like I have so much peace when I stay away from that book. In other words, a lot of times they don't even have to say that. They just do it. We got a war. And our enemy is a formidable foe. And he ain't going to stop. Little victories. a little at a time. Y'all remember Abram when he was afraid that the king was going to kill him and take Sarah? So he told Pharaoh that Sarah was his sister. Y'all hear that? And of course, he lied. Some people say, well, she was his sister. No. When he went into her, she became his wife, no longer his sister. Y'all remember that, right? Abraham lied to try to get out of a situation that was bringing projected fears on him. Is that right? Then later, Abraham traveled to the land of the Philistines, and there he met Abimelech. And he told the same lie again. 40 years later, come Abraham's son Isaac, had Rebekah, traveled to the land of the Philistines, where Abimelech was still king. Isaac told the exact same lie that Abraham said. The exact same one. Where did he learn this behavior from? Where did he learn it from? Then Isaac had 2 sons. And mind you, that lie just didn't stay. That lie stayed in the home. Now the wife is lying to the husband. And they have all types of wars going on between the favorite of one favorite Esau, the other one favorite Jacob, and the other one is undermining and doing this and doing that and doing this. And all that come because of a generational curse, because Isaac was watching Abraham his father. Don't you think people are not watching? You know, I've always watched how judgmental children and teenagers are on older people. They can tell you everything is right, but they have not lived one day out from under your roof. They think they got it all figured out. Every one of them do. Every one of them say, they said, Satan says it like this. And then you vocalize, you say, man, I can't wait to get out of this house. So you can make a bigger fool of yourself. Because see, your mind tells you things you have never experienced. And you think you got all the answers, and yet you can look on YouTube and look at this whole world and see 1 million people that had the same thought that you did. But all of a sudden, you different. Because when you leave the home, you leave the umbrella of protection. And we all find out that life ain't as easy as we thought it was. See, when you are being taken care of, life is so simple. It's so easy. It really is. Why? Because there are things you never worry about. You have no concern for. Is this true? You go out there and you bring a child into this world, everything changes. So it would behoove us to take the wisdom of the wise, whoever that may be. But there are reasons why we're not healed, because we are constantly destroyed because we reject God's knowledge. The Bible says that whosoever committeth sin is the servant of sin. Is that right? And the servant abideth not in the house forever, but the Son abideth forever. Meaning you're going to be in the Son. The King also says, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, watch this, and they follow me. Now stop for a second. How many voices you hear every day? And which ones are you following? And then whenever you decide to shock yourself back into reality, oh wait a minute, I'm a child of the king. I'm supposed to be following the king now. After you done heard every negative spirit speak in your heart and mind, and the only thing they're trying to do is, see, the greatest temptation in the world is when Satan presses you to speak for his kingdom. Just because you feel something don't mean that you need to voice it. Does this make sense? The king also said, if a man love me, he will keep my words. You don't think it's remarkable and amazing how that when we're in the temptation, in the challenge, all of a sudden we're so focused on the temptation and the challenge that his word escapes our minds? I mean, because the enemy, he doesn't, what he does is he makes subtle suggestions. He holds the truth in unrighteousness, hoping that we will give voice to it. All you have to do is pay attention to your nature. Are you happy? Is your spirit uplifted? Are you at peace? You walking in shalom? You're calm? If not, then Satan is pressing you. You ain't never looked at somebody and then Satan starts spitting in your ear and start telling you stuff? And of course, they're not doing that with nobody else, with you though. See, the spiritual realm, they believe it. They know that we're in this war. They know we're in this fight. When I talk about the spirit of rejection, you should hear, you should see all the messages I had sent to me. Just when you thought that you and you alone was the only one being preached to. The ideal of these messages is to expose Satan's kingdom, give you comprehension, give you understanding so you can be better able to fight. Not to become more mind numb. It's to give you information so you don't be destroyed for a lack of knowledge. But again, you're only going to be as effective in this as you are in anything that you've done in life. If you have a test that you have to take, see, folks that have been to high school, they think they've been to school. They don't know about them tests that y'all take in college. Them was some real tests. Them was some very challenging tests. Them the kind of tests you got to study for. Because you ain't passing them just by sitting in class. Unless you're a genius. And of course, some of our most studious people when it comes to spiritual warfare, by and large, are the ones who are educated. Because they know what it means to study. Because they've had to study. So they know what it means to study. They also know the benefit of it too. Sister Carol has no college, but she studies. So that doesn't mean that you have to have college or have to have that experience before you can actually really truly become a benefit for the kingdom. What I'm getting to is you got to get out of yourself. You got to die to yourself. It's one thing for us to bounce ideas and knowledge off of each other and stuff, but have you ever taken note that very few people actually come to you for information? Because they can discern that coming to you will not be fruitful. Y'all hear this? People come to me all the time. Oh, that's because you passed it out. No, wait a minute. People, there's a lot of other people that people come to in here. But some of you, nobody ever comes. You don't think there's nothing wrong with that? Since we're all destroyed for a lack of knowledge? And you know how we do, right? You hear something like this, next thing you know, we'll spend the next day or two trying to cram every hour we can into study. Only about 3 weeks later, we're right back in the same old rut. Y'all hate the false balance. Y'all hear that? You're going to have to learn how to grow incrementally so that when you do grow, you're set. Does that make sense? Jesus also said that if a man abide in me, or if he doesn't abide in me, he's cast forth as a branch, and that branch is withered. And then, of course, men take that branch, they gather it up, and they throw it into the fire. And they are burned. To abide into him is to abide in his word. There sure is a sincere, deep pleasure when you have time to read that word. It feeds the spirit, man, that wants to stay very much alive. But we're going to do some self-inspection before we go on, because we really, truly don't want to sit and receive the type of word that we're receiving like we've done in years past. We should be expecting even a greater move of the Spirit. But that's all going to be based on how much we sow to the Spirit. I mean, the one that said, cast not your pearls before swine, is the one who hung the earth on nothing. He gave us his Spirit because he knew we would obey him, but he also knew that our frame that is but dust. So you're going to have to learn how to slowly but surely die to yourself. Christ said, you are my friends if you do whatever I command you. If you do what I command you. So, when we really truly look at it in a nutshell, and I just gave y'all a bunch of points here today, you really truly look at this thing in a nutshell. You can't be lazy in this. Can't be lazy in this. All of us at times know when our flesh is trying to get in the way of the Spirit. Whatever you do, don't let that word and the study of that word escape you. So love that word and more than the bread that you eat. In other words, when we live, we need to make sure we live this life, and it's time for us to go out when our time is up, that we have no regrets. You look at, I'll finish on this, look at the life of the Apostle Saul. And then we have people today who have the audacity to think they can stand in judgment of him. Haven't been in prison at one time for the kingdom's sake. I told you, the way that our people weighed their righteousness was by their persecution. They hadn't been betrayed by anyone. Everybody loves them. Paul's in pearls of false brethren. Fasting often. Even got beat. Now think about that for a second. If we were not suffering no persecution, then how righteous are we then? We won't call ourselves suffering persecution when somebody sees that we've fallen short, then they point the finger at us, which in that they become a judge of the law itself. See, a lot of times when you're judging your brothers and sisters, you become a judge of the law and not a judge of your brothers and sisters. That's why you have to know how to have righteous judgment. Is all this making any sense? Am I just rambling here? And especially those of us here at Straitway, you know, we the elite. We the ones that everybody else out there look to. Everybody in this room and everybody that's around the surrounding areas here, everybody looks to us. That's why I say, and I say it again, yeah, y'all, that when all the saints come around, pay attention to the type and caliber of people that are drawn to you. Because there are some brothers that are spiritual. There are some sisters that are spiritual. But then there are some brothers and sisters that are very foolish too. How many spiritual conversations you have? You know, good ones. I'm sure word got around that there was prayer meetings up here. But that flesh, you know, that flesh don't want to get up out of no tent and go to no prayer meeting. Man, come on. And probably one that stayed in that tent is the one who needed more than anybody. Are you really truly a benefit for the kingdom? This is how you become a benefit for the kingdom, is when you start becoming an overcomer for yourself. You don't hear me? When you become an overcomer for yourself. I was in Walmart the other day, saw an older couple, looked at me and they said, they live up here too, they said, you're that man on the internet, aren't you? I said, yes, sir. He says, Pastor Dowell, right? I said, yes, sir. He says, an honor to meet you. Of course, they say, no. Honor's all mine. I said, fine with me, sir. He said, let me tell you something. Don't let these ignorant folks up here worry you. I said, they don't. I said, I would not even dare give them that much. But I do expect persecution. You ever notice that I take it, even though I speak certain ways, I actually take it with a smile on my face? See, if you're persecuted for your faults, then there's an automatic failure mechanism that comes on our face. But if you're being persecuted for righteousness' sake, then you're happy, that righteous indignation rises up, and you drive on even harder. It's amazing how both the spirits does, you know what I mean? I had a conversation. Anyway, they told me don't let nobody worry. I had a conversation the other day with someone, and they said, "Hey, I hear that you are teaching polygyny." I said, "Yeah, I'll teach anything that's the truth." He says, "But I think that God tolerated." I said, "Really? How can He tolerate something that He actually made a law for?" What are you talking about? You never heard of kinsman redeemer? Or what? I said, see, that's the problem. You speak for your church, or you speak for your family. I speak for y'all. There's a difference. He instituted it. And you have a problem with it. Now, do you think you have a problem with me? You ain't no problem with me. You have a problem with him. He commanded a brother to take his deceased brother's wife. If that's not regulating it, if that's not commanding it, I don't know what is. Never once, I said this to him and it shocked him. I said, never once have I ever heard Yah give a scathing rebuke to Abraham, to Moses, to David, to any of the patriarchs. But yet, the United States of America says, now I'm not saying that you should take on another wife because they crazy as hell. They're going to make sure they challenge every man to be bitter. Because these women in this world are American women. Right here. But I tell you one thing, if we're going to be preserved as a nation, we better reinstitute the biblical way. Because we're losing out. The homosexuals have all the churches locked down from the pew to the pulpit. I just got finished looking at a few preachers on there who have actually made, this is how they asked them the question on, check this out, homosexuality, right? You know what they do? I heard T.D. Jakes, Carlton Pearson, all these big shot preachers and stuff. And you know what? I've evolved on the subject. I said, you've evolved, huh? Now, Juanita Bynum, been there. Been what? I've been with a woman. Kurt Franklin, all flaming, a pastor. As soon as the Supreme Court came out and spoke about that now that, watch this now. The Bible clearly say it is an abomination. But then when someone that practices a biblical lifestyle, the world says you are an abomination. So which one is it? Thereby calling Yah an abomination. See what Satan has done? Something that is clear as day that he destroyed the whole cities and a few other surrounding ones. This pastor came out and said, I'm gay. And they put him on primetime news. I was in the store today, and what did I see? That ugly-ass Caitlyn Jenner. I said, look, Satan got this world on. Look, he exploits all this good stuff right here called sin. And this is the world your children are going to grow up in. No telling, if the king don't come, no telling what this thing going to look like 20 years from now. I mean, it was already on steroids 5,000 times over within the last 10 years. Men, I have a scathing rebuke for you. The reason why women can't love today is because you don't know how to love. The women are charged to obey, you're charged to love. They can only love when they feel love coming from you. That's why all our women are jacked up in America today, because you don't know how to love. Is not Yah love? Man is creating the image of Yah. He gave the charge for the man to love the woman, to love the wife. The charge of the wife is to obey. So don't expect something out of her when she is receiving no love from you. And by the way, sisters, don't define love after your American romance either. The greatest show of love was the king himself. And love is not giving them everything they want either. I saw a woman today pulled her husband over in the aisle and just ripped him. And that little shell of a man, I actually walked by and said, what a damn pitiful sight all this is. You know, doing it inconspicuously, you understand what I mean? Where the damn man in the world? And woman looked. I looked. Did you need something, ma'am? Oh, no. You ever seen that man? He just whipped. Just totally whipped. Then she said, I'm with you. Come on. I said, and stop and watch. I go, they cut down the aisle and he was right behind her. This is how he walked too. Didn't look like you whipped, don't it? I wonder how that house would be if he would just be a man. He get in his role, she get in her role. It'd probably be a strong house, wouldn't it? And you know what? She didn't see nothing wrong with it. Feminism in America don't see nothing wrong with it. America is a feminine nation. We've been feminized. Men, we even got some of that crap in us. We better come to it quick. The only way you're going to come to it is through experience, though. Yeah, it is. You're going to have experiences, then meet up with it, because a lot of times you don't even realize. You're like, what in the... You don't have to be mean-spirited to your wives. You don't have to be that way. We're not mean-spirited. But Satan's got this world. We're it. We're it. I'm praying that the king comes. That is my prayer. I'm serious. I truly want him to come. This earth, it is getting bad. Did y'all see my video today? I said I was going to finish. Y'all see that video today? This old white woman is sitting down in a public area, and there's all these people sitting around. And apparently this young youth is trading words or something like that with this older woman. Whether he believed her to be wrong or right, just by the mere fact of him telling something, he should have enough intelligence to know how to humble himself. What'd you say to me? What did you say to me? She old, kind of helpless there, and he just reared back. Pow! Knocked her out. Got in front of the camera. I go, oh, mercy. I said, Father, I tell you. Whoo! I said, I thank y'all I'm out here. I said, because if I was there in a situation like that, oh, boy. What I'd have done? Would I have sit there and just looked at that? Oh, hell, oh, no. No, him and the cameraman would have been, it'd have been ugly fast. I'd have gave him the whoopings that his parents didn't give, and if his parents show up, I'd whoop their ass too. This is how bad it is. You know, I teach us, you never dishonor. Y'all hearing that? You don't dishonor nobody. You be honorable, but when they start being dishonorable to you, then you can change your spirit. But you honor all people. That young man is probably going to die a horrific death. That's what the youth don't see. You're not going to sit up there. There's a law. You're not going to sit up there and smite the older people like that and expect to get by. Have you read the Apocrypha? No, they ain't never read the Apocrypha. They ain't never read the Apocrypha. More than likely, he's going to die a very horrific, violent death. And the way he's going to end up in prison. Going to be somebody's booty bag, booty satchel. They proud too, as if they've done something. And now they're getting together in mobs. They don't even care if cameras are there or not. Isn't that pretty proud to sit up there and knock out an old woman and then put it on the internet? See, criminals ain't intelligent. Anyway, the more I thought about that today, it just disturbed me more than anything. I was saying, Father, you order my steps. But I'm telling you right now, you already know me. If you don't want to see me coming unglued on nobody, don't put one of them situations in front of my face today. Because I'm already jacked up, if you understand what I mean. I don't even think I could have took a young person even talking back to an old person today. I got to be careful what I put in front of my eyes. Let us stand. Ah, mercy. Help us, Father. Your people, Israel. We thank you for the blood of Yeshua. Pray these sayings sink deep in our hearts. Amen. King coming. Uh-oh, look at him looking.